Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be creating with our newest card kit called A Good Time to Wine, and we're going to be using this new die that comes in the kit. This is the wine glass shaker, window, and frame die, and this is a follow-up to a lot of our other window, shaker, and frame dies in which it creates a shape that you can actually create a shaker in. We also have a new stamp set called A Good Time to Wine, and this is going to be the sentiment that I was initially going to use on one of the cards, but you will see that I'm going to change that up when we get going here. This is the cardstock I've chosen from the kit. I have Electric Red, I have Coral Crush and Peach Bellini, as well as the Gold Sparkle. And then I've also added in a piece of vellum from my stash, and we're going to be using that on some of the cards as well. So as excited as I am to actually create shakers with these wine glasses, I wanted to create a set of cards today that uses just the wine glasses without the shaker component. So I'm not going to use the little shaker pouches that come in the kit. I'm just going to use the wine glasses as is. I'm also going to be using the Free with 60 that's coming out with this month's kit, which is called Mondo Cheers. This is a follow-up to our very popular Cheers Die-namics, and it's just the same font and the same word, but in a much larger form, so it's actually nice and big and really takes center stage on your cards. So I have already went ahead and die cut a bunch of pieces off camera. I have a bunch of wine glasses cut from Gold Sparkle as well as vellum. I have the center pieces that I've cut from the different colors of cardstock to create our wine, and I simply just cut them in half just to create the bottom portion there. And then I also have that big large cheers word that I've die cut from red as well as the Gold Sparkle. Now for the vellum pieces, when I'm using vellum, I like to add adhesive to the back of the vellum before I die cut it. It just helps to kind of conceal the adhesive since we cover the entire piece. I just do this with any type of double-sided tape, so I have Be Creative tape or this large roll here, and I simply just take a piece of the adhesive and I add it to the back of the vellum, and then I die cut through the entire piece, and that just adds the sticky adhesive to the entire back of the vellum, so it's really hard to notice that there's actually adhesive on there. Okay, so when I die cut off the pieces, I already had a general idea of how I wanted to decorate each of the cards, and we're going to be making 3 in total. So for the first one, I'm going to make this one kind of have a red and gold theme. I want it to be a really bold statement. So I'm using the Electric Red as my card base, which is an A2 size card that measures 4¼ by 5½. And I also have a piece of white cardstock that I'm going to layer over top that measures 4 inches by 5¼ So it's going to leave a little bit of a red border. And then I've die cut the Gold Sparkle wine glass as well as the large cheers with the same red that I'm using for the card base. I'm using some liquid glue to add our wine glass to our card front, and I'm just going to position this over to the right hand side. It fits really nicely in that area with it being 4 inches tall. I get a little bit of a white space above and below the wine glass. Once I have that added on there, I'm going to do the inside of the wine glass, and for this one I thought I would really like the look of the red wine with the vellum laid over top to kind of conceal that red cardstock. So I am actually going to assemble it this way, but I'm going to end up changing it. You'll see at the end of the video. I decided I didn't like the vellum over top of the red, so I am going to kind of pull everything apart very carefully a little bit later, and I'm going to remove the vellum piece and just have a piece of red cardstock. I just think in the end it looked a lot nicer and much more bold with just the red cardstock without that vellum kind of going over top. But this is an option if you do want to kind of make the wine look like it's in the glass and kind of give the glass a frosted look. This is a great way to do that. Once I have the wine glass fully assembled, I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid glue to the back of our cheers word. I'm going to fully cover this so that it adheres nicely to the card, and then I'm just going to position it down near the bottom area of the wine glass, and it's going to fit perfectly within that panel. I love how large and bold this is, and I decided just to leave this as the sentiment on 2 of the cards, and on one of them we're going to do some stamping. Now you could definitely mix and match and use the cheers with some of the stamped sentiments as well to get a bunch of different occasions on your wine-inspired cards. Once I have everything adhered to the panel, I'm going to go ahead and add it to our card base, and then I'm going to finish it off with some clear sequin. So I'm just kind of scattering these around the wine glass here, and then I'm going to fill the centers with some stickles. Now I typically use a clear or a silver stickles, but since we have Gold Sparkle cardstock on this design, I decided to use some gold colored stickles to fill in the centers. This is a really quick and easy way to add something to the center if you don't like the hole showing in a sequin, and it adds a little bit more sparkle and shine. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this in, and then once I have that done, our first card is complete. I'm keeping these card designs very simple. They're pretty much just die cutting except for the third one that we're going to add some stamping to, and they would be really quick and easy to recreate if you wanted to create some card sets. Okay, so let's move on to the next card. For this one here, we're going to use the Coral Crush cardstock, which is the darker peach color, and we're going to put that in the background as our card base. I have another piece of white cardstock cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And for this one here, we're going to use one of our vellum wine glasses. So I'm just going to peel off that adhesive backing that I had added to the vellum before I die cut the wine glass. And I'm going to put my cheers die in place so I can kind of figure out where the wine glass needs to be positioned. Out of the 3 cards, this is definitely my favorite. I love the vellum wine glass. I think it looks really cool against the white background. It just kind of actually looks like a frosted wine glass. And for the inside of this one, I decided to use the peach Bellini and put that into the wine glass, kind of like a rosé wine. For this card, the large cheers word is die cut from the Gold Sparkle cardstock, and I'm once again going to use that same liquid adhesive, and I'm going to add this all over the back of this so that we can adhere it onto the card. Now with this one, I really love that the wine glass is die cut from the vellum because it kind of disappears into the background, even though it's still very obviously there, but it lets the focus go onto that large sparkle word. I just think it's a beautiful design, and I love how soft it is. I usually tend to go towards really bold rainbow colors, but in this case, I really love the soft look of this with that gold sparkle over top. And you can see that the curve of the R kind of matches the curve of the wine glass, so I intentionally adhered it over top so that it would line up perfectly on top of there. Once I had that done, I went ahead and added some adhesive to the back of the panel, and we're going to add this one to our card base. I still have the clear sequins there that we used on the first card, so I'm going to add a few to this one as well. I'm just going to add 3. I'm going to add them kind of scattered around the end of the word there and around the wine glass. And then for this one, I decided to use Stardust stickles to fill in the centers. This is just a clear sparkly stickles rather than using the gold because I really want that cheers word to remain the focus, so I want the sequins to kind of stay in the background with the wine glass. And then that card is complete, and we can move on to our third one. Now for the third one, I decided to go with kind of the same color palette as the second one, but we're going to use 2 wine glasses instead of 1, and we're going to kind of do a little bit of a layered look here. So this one is also going to be a landscape card similar to the first one. I'm going to put the vellum wine glass on there first, and then I'm going to put the wine inside, which is cut from peach Bellini cardstock. And then I'm going to add my liquid glue to the gold sparkle wine glass as well. Now for this one, I want it to kind of hang off the bottom a little bit, so I'm going to position it so it kind of goes off the edge, and then I'm going to add the wine into this one, which is going to be the Coral Crush, which is a little bit darker. My idea here when I was putting this together was I wanted the vellum wine glass to kind of look like it was back in the distance and the gold sparkle one to really stand out, which is why I went with the bolder color for the wine. I then trimmed off the bottom piece, and then we're going to do our stamping here. So you can see now that I have a different sentiment, and that was mainly because the one I had originally picked didn't really fit into the space I had here. So I decided to go with the one that was a little bit smaller that fit a little bit nicer. I stamped that on there with some black licorice dye ink, and now I'm adhering the panel to my card base, which is a peach Bellini card base. So it's a little bit lighter than the middle card that we created. Once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and once again add some sequins to this design. And for this one, I'm also going to use the same Stardust stickles to keep it kind of in the background. I really want the focus on this card to stay on that gold sparkle wine glass. So I'm just going to kind of position these around, figure out where I want to put them. I'll adhere them down with matte multi-medium, which is just a really nice strong adhesive that dries matte. And then I'm going to fill the center with those stickles. Once I have that done, we have finished all 3 cards, and we have this really cool card set that has kind of a modern look to it. It was really easy to create them because everything was pretty much die cut except for that stamped sentiment. And I love the final result of all of the different glasses. They're just a very elegant look, and that gold sparkle really adds to the design. Now here's a look at that first card. I mentioned that I had taken that vellum piece off. You can see here the wine is a little bit more prominent now in the finished glass, and I really liked this result a lot more than what I had originally created. So you can kind of go either direction and use the vellum on top or not at all in the center of the wine glass. So I hope you got some ideas on ways that you can use our new card kit called Good Time to Wine. This is some really great products that works really well for all of the wine lovers in your life. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. I hope to see you in another one soon, and I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching.